One of them said to me, "What you're doing to your father's not right." And then my entire center was rocked to its core. Let's call this a modern fairy tale.
What could possibly go wrong?
They have proven themselves to be liars.
Why are they talking about race?
How you don't have your daddy at your wedding?
I want to be near them. I want to be a part of their life.
What you're doing to your father's not right.
She wanted her privacy invaded.
There were women who worked for her who were absolutely broken by her.
Just by existing, we were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy.
He has become a traitor.
Who are their friends now?
The fairy tale has fractured.
They would change the world.
The UK tabloids were trying to find my dad, offering people so much money to try to find his address. Once they did, I remember being told there was a huge headline like, "We found him," or "We've got him." You're talking about someone's father.
And suddenly they're flashing in my face and asking me questions. And I run to my truck, jump in my truck, and throw up a peace sign.
I went in search of him where he lives south of the border. Markle lives in Rosarito, Mexico, in an apartment on a bluff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. This is the modest gatehouse to his neighborhood.
Everyone said I was hiding in Mexico. That's not true. I lived in Mexico for 6 years.
After a career as an Emmy Award-winning lighting director in the film industry, Thomas has now retired to Mexico.
She described you as reclusive. Is that fair?
No, I am somewhat reclusive, but not totally. I mean, I value my privacy at times, but I certainly like to be involved with my family. I worked 50 years in a studio surrounded by people, so it's sort of a time in my life where I don't want to be surrounded by quite as many people, that's all. But I certainly always want my family. Especially now, the older I get, the more I need my family. So I'm not that reclusive that I didn't want her here, or Harry for that matter.
And from that point, the tabloids, they moved into the apartment next door and across from him.
The cameras trained to my doors when I come out to get in my car every day. 24/7, those cameras were aimed at my house.
Descended on this small town, we're just giving him gifts. The whole thing brings us to where we are today.
No one took any time to protect any member of our family. We were attacked by the press every day. My oldest daughter, my son, myself, our grandchildren, all of us were attacked by the press. Nobody was there to care for us. Nobody looked after us.
There was such an obsession about anything in my world, including tracking down my parents, and I did everything I could to protect both of them.
You know by now, this was a guy named Jason Knopf, who was her assistant, who suggested that they send some help to me. And they denied it. They said, no, don't send any help.
Who denied it?
Meghan and Harry.
Meghan had contacted my father saying if he wanted to come to the wedding, that he had to disown myself and my sister Samantha.
And I can't do that. They're my children. I love all my children.
He needed to disown you both.
Yes.
If he wanted to come.
Yes.
Which he didn't do. Good for him.
Of course not. He told her word for word. He goes, I wouldn't disown any of my kids.
How did that conversation come about? Dad, can you stop talking to your other children, or like what?
Well, it started when Harry popped into the picture.
She wasn't making any effort to reach out and try to be friendly. My daughter Samantha reached out to her and just got a phone hung up on her. So, yeah, that was very disappointing.
I kept trying to explain to her that when you're dealing with 50-year-old children, they're telling you what they're not telling them what. I'm at that age where I need them to sometimes tell me what to do.
She phoned you up. What did she say?
She said, make them stop talking about me. She said, I won't help you unless you make them stop.
What happened? You got the invite in the mail?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
You opened it and...
Doves flew out.
Because her father never ever received an invitation. Very funny, that.
And I asked her about it. I said, well, what happened? Do I get an invitation? I said, where's my invitation? She said, maybe it got lost in the mail, which was stupid.
If it was sent, it wouldn't have got lost in the post. Take it from me.
I said, I'd like to make a little speech. I've been writing a little speech. And
Yeah.
Harry said, you might want to talk to Meghan about that. I think she wants to make a speech.
Let's call this a modern fairy tale.
Because, I mean, who in their right or wrong mind with a heart and a soul would fail to invite all of her family to a wedding?
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's royal wedding invitations have been sent out, and it looks like not everyone made the cut.
She humiliated the whole of her family in front of the eyes of the world.
Did it feel like betrayal when you found out your father was working with the tabloids?
I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that.
Every paper seemed to want to make me look like a dumb, fat slob.
Meg had spent months trying to soothe her father. There was always something new that he'd read about himself, something derogatory he'd taken to heart. His pride was constantly wounded. Every day there was another humiliating photo in the papers.
And they were making me an alcoholic.
Thomas Markle buying a six-pack.
Everybody knows I don't drink, but I bought beer for guys off my guard gate.
Thomas Markle buying a new loo.
They were calling me names.
Thomas Markle with his belly hanging over his belt.
Talking about the way I dress.
We understood. Meg told him we knew how he felt.
I couldn't go anywhere or do anything without being photographed.
The press, the paps, they were awful.
Even though she didn't publicly speak out against him, neither did she advocate publicly for him.
Impossible to totally ignore what's written, she acknowledged. But please do try to ignore them in person.
He was saying, there are photos going to be taken of me anyway. There are people, paparazzi, that are going to be hounding me no matter what I do. I may as well get involved in the process.
Ignore anyone who approaches, Daddy. Be on guard against anyone who pretends to be your best friend.
I believe she knew what was going to happen.
I got approached by a guy named Jeff Rayner, who spoke to me and said, I can change your image, he said.
The week before our wedding, we get a call from our communications secretary. It said, this story is going to come out tomorrow saying that your father's been staging pictures and taking money from the press. And I was like, what kind of pictures?
Jeff Rayner was the one that took the photographs of Thomas Markle in Mexico. Jeff Rayner had worked with Meghan prior to that happening. Jeff Rayner also has worked with Meghan and Harry since.
We immediately phoned Meg's dad, told him what was coming. He swore that he'd never staged any photos, that he didn't know the pap in question.
Why the hell did she shoot with Jeff Rayner when she moved to Montecito with Coleman Rayner credits on the bottom of the photo?
The photographer here, that is Jeff Rayner. Now, why would Meghan use the same photographer that destroyed her wedding, destroyed her relationship with her father? Maybe it's because she was always in on it.
Seems like she had a relationship with him before and after, and I believe the whole thing was set up to discredit my father and to create a reason why he couldn't be at the wedding.
I said, look, they're saying you're taking money from the tabloids to stage photos. Is this true? He goes, no.
I denied it. I denied it.
You denied it to your daughter?
Yes.
Do you wish that you'd done something differently now? because the way that she speaks about it.
Well, I
she was
wish I
hurt by
hadn't.
that.
I wish I hadn't done the whole thing.
I said, you know, the institution has never intervened for anything for us, but they can try to go in and kill this story. But if they do this once, we're not going to be able to use that same leverage to protect our own kids one day.
Why won't you be able to protect your own kids if you try to kill this story? I truly don't understand that.
Meg said, "We might be able to kill this story, Daddy, but if it turns out you're lying, we'll never be able to kill a full story about ourselves or our children again. So this is serious. You must tell us the truth."
The idea that the father of his own bride-to-be is colluding with the paparazzi that he hates.
Given what happened to his mother, I mean, it's the one thing that Harry absolutely cannot tolerate. People in his inner circle talking to the paparazzi.
And on that call, I'd said to him, look, if this story, if they can't stop it, then it's gonna come out tomorrow. So why don't we send someone right now to your house to get you out of there now? Because if that's the case, your house will be swarmed by media.
A whole new level of harassment is about to rain down on you, so come to Britain, now. We'll arrange for an apartment where you can hole up safely until your flight. Air New Zealand, first class, booked and paid for by Meg.
Yeah, problem is Air New Zealand doesn't even offer first-class tickets from Mexico to the UK. In fact, it doesn't offer flights at all from Mexico to the UK.
Air New Zealand have called Harry out and are actually trolling him now by saying they're going to have this new flight available.
Hashtag introducing Sussex class. Apparently coming soon, the airline followed up its response by taking a cheeky dig at the Sussexes on Friday. Any spare seats, one wrote.
Meghan said, if only I had gotten in the car. And apparently they had sent a car to pick me up to take me to the airport, is what they were saying.
Get you out of there now. It's like, we'll just come and get you a day early. Let's get you out of Mexico.
And at that point, I was in a hospital bed. But this guy named Sarge, who apparently is a friend of Harry, had come to pick me up and take me up to Los Angeles. But he said, I refused to get in the car. I refused. They opened the door and I refused to get in the car. I was laying in a hospital bed. All right.
Let's get you out of Mexico. And he said, no, I have things I need to do. And it felt really cagey.
He said he had things to do. Now Meg's face changed. Something was up. She turned to me again and sighed. He's lying.
And in spite of all that, I still apologize. I'm still apologizing today again. But here again, and I also said we all make mistakes. I also said we all make mistakes, but I've never played naked pool. And I've never dressed up like a Hitler. Now, of course, I'm sure that made Meghan get really angry with me, but that's how I felt at the time.
I was like, it doesn't make sense, doesn't make sense. And when we hung up, I looked at Age. I was like, I don't know why, but I don't believe him.
You know, not being willing to protect you.
And also me saying just full stop, if we use this to protect you, we won't be able to protect our own children one day.
Why would Meghan think that if the royal family is going to do something for her father, that means they wouldn't be able to do it for Archie?
Well, I'm talking about your grandchildren. So I can't, I look at Archie, I think about this child, and I go, I genuinely can't imagine doing anything to intentionally cause pain to my child. I can't imagine it. So it's hard for me to reconcile that.
First of all, Archie didn't exist at the time. Let's remember that. The palace wanted to give her father assistance. So where can there possibly be a link between a father who the royal family want to help and she refuses to allow them to help, and the putative child who doesn't exist, might never exist.
He said, no, absolutely not. He hadn't been talking to them?
Yeah.
So he basically lied to you.
Well, and so when I said we won't be able to protect our own kids one day.
Okay, so back to the interview that we are now recreating through this legal filing, because this is in the court's order. This is in the court's order. Like, if we protect, Meghan is telling Oprah, if we protect if we protect dad and kill this story, that we're not going to be able to protect our kids one day. I don't know. Is it like the extra life coin that you get in a Ready Player One? You only get one? I don't understand.
And I said, so I just need you to tell me, and if you tell me the truth, we can help. And he wasn't able to do that. And that for me has really resonated, especially now as a mother.
The next day on Facebook, Jeff Rayner was bragging on his Facebook page, calling it a cheeky little hit.
There's an article that came out in the Daily Beast. Anyone can go to the Daily Beast, look up that article where Coleman Rayner tries to wreck the wedding.
It was, if we're going to use the word betrayal.
Hindsight, I think they decided they didn't want me at the wedding.
It's because when I asked him, when we were told by the comms team this is a story that was going to be coming out, which, by the way, the tabloids had apparently known for a month or so and decided to hold until the Sunday before our wedding because they wanted to create drama.
Well, they waited till 3 days before the marriage and released the photos.
These seemingly candid photos of Meghan Markle's father, Thomas, are this morning making headlines. The UK's Mail on Sunday publishing these photos and a surveillance video that it says showed Thomas staging photos.
He was seen arriving at an internet cafe with a photographer in tow.
The story broke the next morning and it was worse than we feared. There was video of Meg's father meeting the Pap at an internet cafe.
They were relatively innocuous enough. You know, there was one of him looking at a book of the UK.
There was a series of farcically staged shots, including one of him reading a book about Britain as if studying for the wedding.
When that happened, I called him and I said, "What's going on? What are we doing? How'd this happen? What do I do?" He said, "Just deny it, go away in one day." It didn't go away. Hasn't gone away yet.
When the pictures did come out, I had a heart attack that night. That put me in the hospital for 2.5 days in Mexico. I thought I was okay. After 2.5 days, they stabilized me. I thought I was okay. So when I got out of the hospital, then I drove up to Los Angeles. It was Mother's Day. I was taking flowers to Doria's house. Our relationship was good all the way through to that point. And when I came out after dropping the flowers off, there's like 11 photographers across the street taking pictures of me.
Paps and journalists and media were following him all day, every day. The unraveling happened that week when he wouldn't pick up my call. And instead, you're talking to TMZ.
How you don't have your daddy at your wedding? Come on,
well, no,
man.
but
Like,
Ben,
where it stands now.
No, but Ben, this is not him saying, "Oh, I don't want to be there."
No, I get it. I know
He wants to be there.
I know she's got to fight to have her daddy at her wedding, man.
I think he's right. He told me he had a heart attack 6 days ago,
Which is crazy.
and checked himself out of the hospital so he could go to England.
Free Thomas Markle.
And now he said he feels so bad for everybody that he's just taken himself out of it.
And I'm finding out that you're not coming to our wedding through a tabloid.
Free Thomas Markle.
Free Thomas Markle, man. Tommy Marks, baby. Come on, man. Get this man to the wedding, man.
I feel bad for him. I gotta say, I feel bad for the guy. I do.
And that he, if he's not really ends up not being at the wedding, that is
It
just feels like that. It feels like it's a little too much punishment for what happened.
Dramatic twist in the royal wedding saga.
He's in, he's out, then rumors that he might be in again.
Her father reportedly cannot travel for the next week or two.
After days of conflicting reports, Kensington Palace finally confirming today that Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, is no longer attending the wedding, reportedly recovering from heart surgery.
And then suddenly they were saying he was in the hospital.
Meghan's father, 73-year-old Thomas Markle, reportedly suffering a heart attack after igniting a scandal these past few days with staged paparazzi photos that went viral.
Please just pick up the phone. Like, what's going on? We're not mad. Just please pick up the phone. Like,
it would have taken nothing, for them to get on a plane to go to Dad, right? That didn't happen at any point before, during, or even after, or even still.
Even once it was said in the media, I just kept calling. We need to know what's going on. I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? What hospital are you at?
If she really wanted to know where her father was, I don't care what country he's in, I think the royals probably have resources enough to find him. Just guessing. I could probably find him myself with a telephone and her newfound Google skills.
I was laying in a hospital bed after having a heart attack. And I had to tell them that I couldn't come to the wedding. Harry had said to me at that point, if you had listened to me, this wouldn't have happened to you. And me laying in a hospital bed after I've had a procedure and getting a stent put here and a stent put here, felt that was kind of snotty.
We're just trying to understand what was going on.
Did they ever visit your dad in the hospital?
No, never since then. He hasn't seen them. They haven't called him. They haven't written. They haven't nada.
And then someone texted back on his phone. It was really weird. And it called me Meghan. I was like, he's never called me Meghan in any day that I've lived on this planet. And I was like, that's not my dad.
Okay, the guy's in hospital. He's literally saying, I'm lying in hospital and you are being assholes to me. You know, I'm sorry that this has inconvenienced you.
So then we knew that his phone had been compromised.
I said, it's too bad I didn't die. Then you guys could pretend that you were sad.
And we said, like, pick up the phone. We need to know it's you.
And that's the last conversation we ever had.
Never spoke to him.
The fact of the matter is that there has been contact from your side, hasn't there?
I just keep asking to respond back to me. And I haven't got any response back.
So your father being hunted down, it seemed like you were saying in some ways that they did this to him. So I want you to be able to clarify this, that the tabloids, the media did this to him, they hunted him. But
Thomas, you've never met Harry. I mean, it's an extraordinarily sad family situation.
Of course, it's incredibly sad what happened. She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father. And I shouldered that. Because if Meg wasn't with me, then her dad would still be her dad.
You know who doesn't have a dad? Me. And millions of others out there who would kill to have just one more Christmas with them. Just one more chance to hug them or spend time with them and put any BS misunderstandings behind us. Her dad has had 2 heart attacks. He lives just a few hours away from her, but now he's dead to them because he didn't deal well with the paparazzi. He's ghosted. I guess Harry's her daddy now.
Just like you, Meghan, they had no experience with how to deal with all the fame and notoriety that you suddenly thrust yourself into, but somehow they're the villain and you're not.
The bottom line is that they didn't make a second phone call to see if I was living or dead. They never spoke to me again. Would you treat your father that way?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I don't care that you did have pictures taken. That's not an excuse to never speak to your father again, because they never sent anyone to help you like they did Doria. Like you were
Exactly.
thrown out to the wolves.
Yes.
You know, somebody might say, no, you can't do that. You have press tomorrow. Right. I also have a real life to live, and press is part of it, and so is celebrating with a friend. Like you do what you do you.
None of us were ever coached or given any help with the paparazzi or press since the very beginning, which has caused a lot of problems. Nobody reached out. I actually reached out, and all I got back was distant family, and she doesn't know us.
Thomas Markle has done nothing but beg and plead Harry and Meghan to meet them, to see his daughter, to see his grandchildren. Beg and plead. And they're talking about like he's dead.
I'm inspired by the stories of compassion in our communities.
You know, Harry and Meghan have sold themselves as the saints of compassion, and I can't understand, no matter the hurt or pain that may have gone between their families, not to call your father when he had a heart attack. And it's very sad to see Mr. Markle like this, because he looks a very vulnerable man, a very hurt man, and the least I think Meghan Markle could do is reach out to him before he dies.
Harry's never even met the man whose daughter he married. Doesn't care. Mr. Empathy, Mr. Compassion.
You know, this is a woman who sells herself on compassion. Where is her compassion for this man who may not be in this world for very much longer? He's begging his daughter. He's literally begging her. He shouldn't have to beg the girl he brought up. Shame on her, you know, absolute bloomin' shame on her.
Samantha Markle, your half-sister on your father's side, has written a supposedly tell-all book about you. What is your relationship with her?
Samantha has debilitating multiple sclerosis and has been wheelchair-bound for 10 years. She requires constant care from her partner, Mark.
Do you think that Meghan understood your situation?
No. She was dealing with traveling the world, and I never wanted to burden her. I was dealing with, at the same time, dealing with progressing disability, which is incredibly challenging.
You know, I've got to know Meghan's sister, Samantha, and she's had a lot of flack, but I got to know her very early on. And what I would say is that everything that Samantha was saying, and at the time, remember, she was just accused of being a troll, you know, but everything that Samantha warned has turned out to be true.
She loved my father and bragged about him, and everything was great. We were a pretty normal family, but then when the royal wedding came, I guess we weren't royal enough or fabulous enough, and the whole MO became seal off the hatches, don't let anybody talk.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for over a decade, and that was only for a day and a half.
I don't know your middle name. I don't know your birthday. You're telling these people that you raised me?
I never said that. Tabloids said that. My brother and I were very clear that we were integral in her life until 12. We taught her how to walk. We birthed her. We picked up blueberries all over the floor. We took her to school. We went to the duck pond. We were normal brothers and sisters.
You've coined me Princess Pushy?
But she's not the one that came up with the name Princess Pushy. That was the press that did that.
I think it'd be very hard to tell all when you don't know me.
We had spoken out about the fact that we weren't invited to the wedding. It just snowballed, and aggregate news made it like, you know, he was a deadbeat dad and I was this horrible, jealous, haggy sister.
I mean, this is a very different situation than my dad, right? When you talk about betrayal, betrayal comes from someone that you have a relationship with.
She had a relationship with both Tom and Samantha, and she can't deny it. There are photographs of it. You can see the photographs of them together.
Right. I don't feel comfortable talking about people that I really don't know, but
even before that, when she was growing up, Samantha would be carrying her around, would be taking her to the duck park, would be taking her for ice cream.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows.
I don't know. Maybe deep down inside she wanted to be an only child, you know?
Well, what her lawyers are arguing, Andrew, is that what she said in the interview was not actually a statement of objective fact. Apparently, according to her lawyers, it was a subjective statement about how she felt about her childhood, not actually that she grew up as an early child.
And I wished I had siblings. I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, so that Archie has someone.
But the fact of the matter is that she's not. I mean, so what if I was 15 and Samantha was 17 when she was born? You know? We were just, we were a family even before she was there, but we're still a family, She's it's bizarre.
Tom's kids were a good 17 years older than her. And Meghan and I left when she was 2.
They're saying, hey, you were 17 years older. They left when you were 2.
This is weird. Meghan and I left when I was 2, but I know we have so much footage of Meghan with her father. It's odd how they're painting this.
And then the last time that I saw her that I remember is when I was in my early 20s. I hadn't had her fall out with her. We didn't have a closeness to be able to have that. And I wanted a sister.
When you know the truth and you watch this woman, and I wanted a sister. I mean, she's just making that up.
It was really interesting the last time I saw her must have been at least 18, 19 years ago. And before that, 10 years before that.
There are salient photographs in the media over a lifespan.
So you all weren't close, you didn't grow up together?
No.
She's essentially trying to say even though you may have this blood relationship, you're essentially a stranger. But then, you don't go to a stranger's graduation, right? You don't have all these pictures with people who you just don't know.
She doesn't really know you.
No.
If I'm such a stranger and I'm like nobody, why would she call me from the green room of Deal or No Deal? Why would she call me from Buenos Aires? Why is she calling me about advice when she's depressed? Why the reflex to call Babe? If Babe's nobody, why are you calling me?
She changed her last name back to Markle I think she was in her early 50s at that time, only when I started dating Harry. So I think that says enough.
I was a Markle before she was. I thought that was kind of weird that she would say, I only changed my name back when she met Harry. Markle's always been my name.
She showed us her petition for name change dated December 1997 and her college diploma, which clearly states her name is Markle.
So she used her married name when she was dealing with her children, because that's their name.
Here's where things take an interesting turn. Now Samantha's own daughter is brought in, who now suddenly Meghan wants a relationship with.
I just remember my dad saying to me, Samantha found her daughter.
That's very telling. So you do know her. You know what? You're keeping in track of her. You're following through relatives. You found this out, and now
if you have her email address, I want to email her.
If I'm not close to my sister, I'm probably not going to have any interest being close to her kids. It's just a weird thing. Like, why would I want to be so close and involved in my estranged sister's kids, right? Here's Meghan saying, how I love Ashley, painting her as like her best friend now.
I wanted a sister, and she was like a little sister.
So you got Meghan Markle, who basically captured the mind of her niece. Probably calculated for some purpose, but when she didn't need her anymore, she's gone.
He has a responsibility in it too.
Everyone has accountability. Look, they've hunted my mom down.
Right. And she didn't speak to the tabloids.
You've never heard her say a word.
Are you excited about going to London, ma'am?
She's remained in silent dignity for 4 years, watching me go through this.
Meghan's mom had come to my house and she left laden with gifts. You know what the gifts were? First of all, she's great at yoga, so I said, bring your yoga mat and your sneaks in case we want to just do yoga on the lawn. So that was one of the bags, was the yoga mat. And the other was for lunch, we had a dessert with kumquats, and she said, I love kumquats. And I said, I have a kumquat tree. You want some kumquats? So it was a basket of kumquats, people.
I'm sorry, didn't Meghan Markle disown her father and siblings because they were opportunists? What the heck do you call this?
Doria was holding court with the Kardashians at the Tia 5th anniversary soiree. Tia, standing for This Is About Humanity, a non-profit organisation dedicated to raising awareness about separated and reunited families and children at the US-Mexico border. Well, look out for a hut on the edge of a cliff with a big man sitting inside of it called Thomas looking out towards the sea, my dear. And see what luck you have reuniting that separated family.
Meanwhile, her father, who's suffering from a stroke, her half-siblings who've been damned by the paparazzi, chased, harassed crazily, who tried to get their own piece, they're the opportunists, but Dora, no, Dora's all good. All right, let's break this down.
What do we know about her mum? Her mum's a mysterious figure.
Very much so. The book tells it all. I mean, the mother really was a very odd woman, disappeared for 10 years effectively during her childhood. That's why Thomas had to bring her up. And in the end, what Thomas says is that it was Doria who really engineered the split between himself and Meghan.
Sure, my name is Doria, and I'm Megan's mom. And,
Don't be fooled. The only reason why Doria is speaking out now is because she was brought up in Tom Bauer's book.
I'm ready to have my voice heard, that's for sure. A little bit of my experience, as her mom.
No, my mom's amazing. My mom is, we're so different. My mom is a yoga instructor and a social worker, and she's got a nose ring and dreadlocks, and she's super free-spirited and laid back. And so she's like, you just came out like this. I don't know where you came from.
Of all the things that a mother could remember about their child, this is what Doria remembers the most?
I remember asking Meg, did I feel like her mom? And she told me that I felt like her older, controlling sister. I never forgot that.
From what I gather in their history, the closeness that Meghan had with her mother really only began after she started to make it in Hollywood and started to make some money.
And now presents her mother, Doria, speaking for the first time, telling outright lies about her ex-husband.
There's a clear push to paint this facade that Doria was the nurturing mother for Meghan growing up.
To get us, to convince us that, about Meghan's upbringing.
My parents lived in the Valley until I was about 2. And when their relationship ended, she and I moved.
We were close to my mom, her grandma. My sister was close by, and my girlfriends were close by. So we had a nice network of women who really helped me raise Meg.
But then I was reading some stuff online where it seemed like her father had raised her after the split. So I was just confused.
I was with my mom during the week and then with my dad on the weekends. And
you know how it cannot be true? Because Meghan was on the set of Married with Children during the week with her father.
And every day after school for 10 years, that's where I grew up. I was there.
Wow.
I know.
My dad lived alone. He had 2 adult children who had moved out of his house.
Doria moved in with us, and I was a teenager. I was 13, 14. They got married. Meghan was born. She was brought home from the hospital to our house. So Tom and I were like, cool, a baby sister in the house. Dad gave her everything, every dance class, every day of education, picked her up, dropped her off at school. He was working on Married with Children. She admitted to being raised on the set. The bottom line is Doria was not her primary parent. She did not move with Doria. People in the neighborhood did not help her raise her.
Until she graduated high school, she was living with me. After she would get out of school, I was working and I her she was relatively worse.
And she had a terrific childhood. He got her into one of the best schools in Hollywood. She was a good student. He took her out for lots and lots of treats, traveled a lot with her outside LA. Took her then, of course, onto the set, the ABC set, where he was the lighting director. She had some very, very close good friends, families that looked after her while her father was working. So it really was a very stable childhood and a happy childhood. And she gets into one of the best university colleges of America, Northwestern, because of her education and background.
Tom did a lot for our school, being a lighting director, and Megyn being so involved with performances.
But for Tom, he was very much a behind-the-camera person and very almost shy and unassuming and didn't want credit for anything. It's been difficult for him to deal with all this attention on himself. But for the record, he's a wonderful human being, and he was a lovely, wonderful father to Megyn.
Do you feel sad for her today that she's not going to have a dad with her on the big day?
I do. I do. I think he's going to be sad. I think he's going to be sad. And I'm going to cry now.
And Doria plays a really sinister role in this whole story, because remember, for 10 years in Megyn's life, from the age of 5 to 18, more than 10 years, she disappeared.
But we never hear about that.
We never hear. And she says at one stage, I went to every one of Megyn's plays at school. Of course she didn't. She was never there.
I have probably the only film or video where Doria came to that school.
I saw that.
Doria and her father and so forth came for a ring ceremony.
At this point, you really got to remind people, when she met Megyn's father, was in fact a drug dealer.
Certainly as a parent, it's not your, no, that's not what you do. Not parenting.
And one of the reasons that Thomas and Doria broke up was not only her very, very heavy drug use, but also she was selling it. And then, of course, she disappears for 10 years from Megyn's life, effectively.
It's why she did not foster any assistance with Thomas Markle or Samantha. And look how she's gloating about it. What's hard about this is that Doria has a kind-looking face, which is very deceptive.
And I remember when I first met him, too.
And that was a big FU to Thomas Markle, because he never met Harry.
Whatever differences or problems we have, that we should be able to work them out. We're family.
So you've just been completely cut off, ghosted?
Ghosted like you, yes.
I think of so many moments with my dad. Our club sandwich and fruit smoothie tradition post my tap and ballet classes, which, by the way, he religiously took me to on Saturday mornings after working 75 plus hours a week. The fishing trips along the Kern River and Big Bear Lake to catch catfish or trout, and the commitment he made to lighting my high school musicals so that they felt as grand as a Broadway show. The blood, sweat and tears this man, who came from so little in a small town in Pennsylvania, where Christmas stockings were filled with oranges and dinners were potatoes and spam, invested in my future so that I could grow up and have so much. He helped me turn my bathroom into a dark room when I was 12 because I wanted to be a photographer. He put gas in my car when I went from audition to audition trying to make it as an actress. He is a person who believed in this grand dream of mine well before I could even see it as a possibility. He taught me to write thank you notes, to find my light when I'm on camera and beyond. And that right there is my point. My dad taught me to find my light. Meghan Markle the Tig, sorry.
But I found him a very, very sincere, good man, and a man who tells the truth.
We were very close. And overnight, it just sort of like went to hell. So I'm sure some of it was my fault, but not enough to deny me. I mean, not care whether I lived or died.
And Thomas Markle is an old man who doesn't think he's got much longer to live, who loves his daughter, and even said to me, you know, whatever she's done to me, I still love my daughter. But he's puzzled and hurt about the way she's treated him and just can't understand it.
You know, the warning signs were everywhere. You're talking about a woman who betrayed her sister, her family, her father, a man who's had multiple heart attacks, who paved the way for her dreams to come true.
That even in the darkest times, when we come together,
We have the power to remind someone else that there is hope and that we will be okay.
My message would be, I love you, I miss you. I'm sorry for anything that went wrong. I miss you very much. My answer to the royal family is that I'm Meghan Markle's dad.